Well, good morning, everyone. It was a very busy week up on Beacon Hill with the governor's annual State of the Commonwealth address, the release of his budget proposal for the coming fiscal year, and a glitchy rollout of the COVID vaccination program. Let's touch on all of that and more as time allows. With the top Republican in the state Senate, Senator Bruce Tarr of Gloucester. Mr. Leader, welcome.
Thank you, John. Good morning. It's good to be with you.
It's good to have you here. Now, I got to ask you before we get into the issues, you've been in the legislature since you were 27 years old, right?
Actually, it was a little younger. I came in 1991, and so I was 26.
26, okay. Well, the political climate sure has changed since then. A lot of people would say not for the better. If you were starting out now, would you still go into this business?
Well, that's an interesting question, John. I think I still would, but I'd think about more than just sort of particular issues. I think I would think more about how to create a better climate, a more civil climate, a more productive climate for us to address enormous challenges that we face in our state and in our country.
Well, the governor talked about this in his address the other night, and he also mentioned that he was, quote, proud that the recent police reform bill was debated and passed, as he put it, quote, without rancor. But, you know, you voted against that bill, as did some other Republicans and a not inconsiderable number of Democrats. And there was a fair amount of pushback about the process there. Was this an example of good bipartisan lawmaking or something else?
Well, you know, it's interesting, John. I voted against one edition of it so that we could continue the conversation. Ultimately, I voted yes, on
that's right.
package that the governor had proposed and the final agreement that we reached. I think we could have been more inclusive in our discussions. I think we could have done better. I certainly don't believe that we should have been debating major policy of that nature at 4 o'clock in the morning. I do think it's an important subject and one that we needed to address, and I said that many times on the floor. And, you know, what's important to me, and I think what was important to many of my colleagues, is that we were fair in developing that bill, not only to one group of folks who had an interest in it, but to all groups who had an interest in it. And so I often said during floor debate that while it was certainly important that we bring equal justice and fairness and balance, it was also very important that we be fair to those that it would impact who are in law enforcement, and to make sure that their due process rights were not impeded, and that we were able to give them the tools that they need to keep us safe.
I wanted to ask you, as we're recording this conversation on Friday afternoon, you told me you'd just come from a meeting with administration officials about the vaccination rollout, and it's no secret, the governor acknowledged in his remarks the other night, it's been a bumpy ride so far. What can you tell us about about what the problem was, how it's being fixed, and how your constituents are reacting to this?
Well, we've certainly been fielding a lot of calls, John, from our constituents, and I know my colleagues have as well, because it's a very sensitive and it's an important subject, and we all want to get the vaccination distributed as quickly as possible and in the most appropriate way. But like anything that we're doing for the first time, and there have been so many of those in the case of the pandemic, there are bumps in the road, and those things have to be worked through because there is no clear roadmap, there is no manual for how to operate in these circumstances. I think there have been a number of factors that have caused issues. One of the ones that's most of concern to me is the availability of the vaccine itself from the federal government. You know, we've been getting approximately 86,000 doses a week. We're told that that's about to go to 100,000 or 101,000 doses per week. That's still a far cry from what we need to vaccinate 85% of the population above the age of 18. That's a very large number of people. And if we're going to make good progress, we need more vaccine. I think we also need to have a system on the front end that is far more user-friendly. And we've been hearing from a lot of folks who are about to become eligible in the second phase, who are above the age of 75, who do not have the same facilities and familiarity with computer technology as maybe other people do. And so trying to make sure that we centralize the process, make it easier to understand and digest, is a very significant thing, because one of the things that's been concerning to us are the number of vaccines that have not gone out And there are a number of reasons for that, and those are being addressed right now. So there are a number of different issues here, but we've got to make it easier on the front end, and we've got to make sure we get more vaccine. And on that second issue, the federal government is the place to look for an answer.
Got to take that break, but just very quickly here, give me your best guess. Are we going to be seeing a better functioning process within a week, 2 weeks, a month? Give us a sense of how long our patience needs to hold up.
Well, first of all, I think patience is important, and we all need to stay calm, and we all need to realize we're in this together. It seems to me that we're going to see improvement within a matter of days, but that improvement is going to be evolutionary and not instant. So there will be phases of it, and I think it will be getting better very, very shortly.